My son, Caleb, thought his fists made him master of the house I poured my life into. One night, in front of his wife, Hannah, he struck me, 100 blows, each one landing like a betrayal of every sacrifice I'd made. Her laughter cut deeper than his hands, her eyes gleaming with mockery as I sat, face burning, counting each hit. I didn't flinch. I didn't beg. My silence wasn't weakness, it was steel forging in my chest. That house, every nail driven by my hands, every wall raised with my sweat, stood as my gift to him. I signed the deed when he was too young to understand, back when his small hands clutched mine, trusting I could build anything. Now, he used those same walls to shame me. As Hannah clapped, filming it all, I tasted blood but swallowed it. They thought they'd broken me. They didn't know I still held the title. Where are you reading this? Share below so others hear my story. That night, as their laughter echoed, I knew I'd take back what was mine. The deed was my weapon, and I'd wield it in silence. If you're watching this, subscribe, like and let me know where you're watching from. Caleb wasn't always cruel. As a boy, he'd chase me across the yard, his laughter bright as the summer sun. I taught him how to hold a hammer, how to sand wood smooth, how to build something lasting. His eyes shone with pride when he drove his first nail straight. I built that house for him, plank by plank, over years of skipped meals and patched boots. When he married Hannah, I signed the mortgage papers, my name as guarantor, my heart full of hope. I thought it'd be a home for their kids, a place for Sunday dinners, a legacy of love. Every time I passed by, seeing the porch light glow, I felt I'd done right by him. But pride turned to arrogance. Caleb started acting like the house was his alone, as if my hands never touched the beams. He forgot the overtime shifts I worked, the winters I went cold to keep him warm. Hannah's smirk grew bolder, her words sharper. They'd mock me at dinners, calling me old, useless. I stayed quiet, believing respect would return. But that night, with 100 blows, he proved me wrong. My silence grew colder. The blows didn't start with fists. They began with words, jabs about my age, my worn coat, my pointless stories. Hannah poured Caleb's drinks, her laughter egging him on. Old man, he sneered, shoving my shoulder. The room chuckled. I gripped the table, urging myself to stay calm. Then came the first strike, sharp, stinging my cheek. Before I could blink, another landed. Hannah's phone was out, recording, her giggles loud as Caleb hit again. 3, 4, 5. Each blow carried an insult, weak. Useless. My face burned, but I sat tall, eyes locked forward. 10, 11, 12. The room blurred, shame heavier than pain. Hannah posted the video online, captioning it, "No respect needed here." By the 20th blow, my ears rang. By the 100th, the room was silent, except for her applause. I tasted blood but didn't spit. My hands stayed folded. They thought I was defeated, but my mind was racing. Every slap erased a memory, teaching him to build, signing the deed. As I walked out, their laughter followed, but so did my resolve. They'd mocked me in my own house. They'd learn who held the power. The next morning, shame clung to me like damp cloth. Neighbors stared as I stepped outside, their whispers sharp as knives. Saw the video, one muttered. Another shook her head, pity in her eyes. Hannah's post had spread, my humiliation now public. I pulled my coat tighter, not for warmth, but to shield myself. The house I'd built, the one I gave Caleb, felt like a cage now. Every window mocked me, every brick a reminder of my foolishness. I'd trusted him, believed he'd honor my sacrifice. Instead, he turned my gift into a stage for cruelty. At home, Caleb strutted through the halls, acting like nothing happened. Hannah brushed past me, her smirk bold, their laughter echoing from the kitchen. The house no longer felt like mine, it was a monument to my mistake. But shame has a twin, clarity. As I sat alone that night, I pulled out an old metal box from under my bed. Inside were papers, receipts, letters, and the deed. My name, not Caleb's, was on it. The house was still mine. That truth sparked something cold and sharp. They'd taken my dignity. I'd take their home. Under the dim glow of a single bulb, I spread the deed across my table. My hands shook, not from fear, but from the weight of what I held. The paper was worn, ink faded, but my signature stood clear. I'd signed it years ago, proud to give Caleb stability. Now, it was my shield. I read every line, every clause, making sure no mistake could undo me. The law was mine to wield. Caleb thought the house was his kingdom, but the title said otherwise. I remembered the day I signed, my chest swelling with hope. Now, it swelled with purpose. They'd laughed at my silence, thinking it weak. They didn't know silence could be a blade. I folded the deed, slid it back into the box, and sat in the dark. My plan wasn't loud or rushed, it was steady, like frost creeping over glass. I could have shouted, fought, called the cops that night. But noise doesn't restore dignity. Silence does. Tomorrow, I'd visit my lawyer. Tomorrow, I'd start the quiet storm that would strip Caleb of his arrogance. The house was mine to give, and mine to take back. Morning came, crisp and gray. I woke before dawn, the house silent except for the creak of my chair. I tucked the metal box under my arm, my old coat brushing my knees as I stepped outside. Each step on the gravel path thumped like my heartbeat. I wasn't walking to plead or fight, I was walking to reclaim. My lawyer, Mr. Ellis, worked in a small office downtown. I'd known him for decades. He didn't ask about the bruises fading on my face. "What's this about, Tom?" he said, eyeing the box. "I want to sell a house," I replied, setting the deed on his desk. "This one." His eyes scanned the paper, then met mine. "It's in your name. We can move fast." His pen scratched across the first form, each stroke louder to me than Caleb's fists. We planned it cleanly, no loopholes, no delays. The sale would be quick, the money placed in a trust for those who'd shown me respect. My hand signed each page steady, no tremble. Every signature was a nail driven into Caleb's pride. I was building again, not a house, but justice. Mr. Ellis worked fast. By noon, the house was listed. Buyers were already circling, strangers eager to claim what Caleb thought was his. I didn't tell him. I didn't warn Hannah. They'd learn when the world they built on my back crumbled. I pictured Caleb at work, joking with coworkers, oblivious. He'd come home to an empty house, his swagger gone. I didn't smile as I signed the final papers. I felt no heat, only calm. The lawyer shook my hand. "It's done, Tom. Once the buyers move in, there's no turning back." I nodded, my coat heavy as I stepped into the cold. The air felt sharp, like my resolve. Back home, I sat at my table, the metal box empty now. The deed was with Mr. Ellis, the sale in motion. I thought of Caleb's hands, striking me 100 times. I thought of Hannah's laughter, her phone capturing my shame. They'd turned my gift into a weapon. Now, I'd turned it back. The house wasn't just walls, it was my life's work. And I was taking it away, piece by piece, in silence. The day of the sale came quietly. Caleb left for work, his laugh loud as he kissed Hannah goodbye. He didn't glance at me, didn't see the faint marks on my face. He thought his world was solid. He was wrong. By mid-morning, a realtor's car pulled into the driveway. Movers followed, their boots heavy on the porch I'd built. Boxes stacked up, furniture wrapped, rugs rolled. Hannah stepped out of the kitchen, her face pale. "What's happening?" she snapped. The realtor, a calm woman with a clipboard, handed her papers. "The house is sold. Please gather your things." Hannah's eyes widened, her phone trembling in her hand as she called Caleb. No answer. She shouted, waved the papers, but the movers kept working. I stood in the corner, silent, watching. Each box carried out was a piece of their pride. The dining table where they mocked me, gone. The couch where Hannah laughed, gone. Strangers measured windows, planned new lives in rooms Caleb thought were his. Hannah's voice cracked, her confidence shattered. I didn't speak. My silence said enough. They'd learn what it meant to mock the man who held the deed. Hannah sank onto the stairs, her phone pressed to her ear, begging Caleb to come home. The movers didn't stop. They carried out chairs, lamps, even the family photos Caleb had hung so proudly. The house echoed with the scrape of furniture and the rip of packing tape. Strangers walked through, pointing at walls, talking about paint colors. Hannah's eyes darted to me, but I didn't meet her gaze. I stood still, my coat folded over my arm, watching their world unravel. The realtor handed Hannah another paper, her voice steady. You have until noon to leave. Hannah's hands shook as she read, her voice a whisper. This can't be real. But it was. The law didn't care about her tears or Caleb's fists. It cared about my signature. I thought back to the night of the blows, her laughter ringing as Caleb struck me. Now, the house was empty, and her laughter was gone. I didn't feel joy, just peace. The movers loaded the last boxes, the truck rumbling as it pulled away. I stepped outside, the air cold against my face. The house was no longer theirs. It was done. Evening fell, and Caleb's car roared into the driveway. His laugh cut off as he fumbled with the key. The lock didn't turn. Hannah opened the door, her face streaked with tears, and handed him the papers. He stepped inside and froze. The living room was bare, no couch, no table, just echoes. His phone slipped from his hand, his voice rising. What is this? He ran through the house, checking rooms, finding nothing. The kitchen cabinets were empty, the closets stripped. His shouts bounced off the walls. Dad, he yelled, finding me in the kitchen, sitting on the last chair. I pointed to the papers on the counter. His hands shook as he read, his face draining of color. No, he whispered. You didn't. But I had. His eyes met mine, wide with fear, not anger. Hannah slumped against the wall, sobbing. It's gone, she said. Caleb's fists clenched, but they didn't rise. He knew they couldn't undo ink. He tried to argue, about rights, family, blood, but the papers were final. The movers returned for the last items, and Caleb stood helpless, watching his life walk out the door. I rose, silent, and walked away. The house stood empty, but the ripples spread wide. Neighbors gathered at their fences, whispering about the movers, the bare rooms, the papers. They'd seen Hannah's video, heard my shame. Now they saw Caleb's fall. He deserved it, one muttered. Another nodded, no pity in her eyes. Caleb's friends, who once filled his house with laughter, vanished. No calls, no visits. They'd clapped when Hannah mocked me, but now they turned away. Pride doesn't keep allies. Hannah felt it too. At the store, clerks ignored her. At gatherings, her old friends sat far off, their voices cold. Her apologies came too late, weak as whispers. Caleb's co-workers smirked behind his back, his boasts about his house now a joke. The world he'd built on my sacrifice crumbled, and the shame he'd given me returned to him tenfold. I watched from afar, not gloating, just observing. The neighbors' nods turned to respect for me. You did right, Tom, one said. My silence had spoken louder than Caleb's fists. My justice was heavier than Hannah's laughter. The house was gone, but my dignity was back, carried in the weight of a single signature. Caleb tried to fight it. He called lawyers, shouting about rights, but the papers were ironclad. My name was on the deed, not his. He'd forgotten who signed for his life. The law didn't bend to his anger or Hannah's tears. They moved to a small apartment, cramped and dim, far from the house they'd bragged about. I heard them arguing through thin walls when I passed by once. No laughter now, just blame. Neighbors stopped me on the street, offering quiet words. You showed him, they said. I didn't nod or smile. I didn't need to. The truth was clear. The house, now filled with strangers' voices, stood as a lesson. I'd given Caleb everything, tools, lessons, a home. He repaid me with 100 blows. Hannah's video had spread my shame, but my silence spread their ruin. I walked past the house one last time. The porch light glowed, but it wasn't Caleb's anymore. Strangers lived there, people who paid with their own sweat. That was right. The house wasn't mine to keep either, it was mine to give, and I'd given it to those who deserved it. The metal box sat empty under my bed, its weight gone with the deed. I didn't miss it. That night, I sat at my table, the lamp casting shadows on the walls. I thought of Caleb as a boy, his small hands gripping a hammer, his smile wide when he got it right. Those memories stung, but they didn't break me. I'd built that house for him, believing it'd hold our family's future. Instead, it held my shame, until I took it back. The neighbors' whispers had changed. They no longer spoke of my humiliation but of my justice. Tom's no fool, one said at the market. I pulled my coat tighter, not for warmth, but for steadiness. Caleb's world had collapsed in a day, just as he'd collapsed mine in a night. Hannah's laughter was silent now, her phone no longer flashing. They'd thought me weak, but weakness doesn't sign papers. Weakness doesn't walk away whole. I'd carried their cruelty in my chest, let it burn, then let it freeze. My silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. The house was gone, but I stood taller, my dignity heavier than any blow Caleb landed. Weeks passed, and the town kept talking. Caleb's name came up in hushed tones, not with pity, but with warning. Don't be like him, parents told their kids. Hannah avoided the market, her head low when she walked. Their friends, once loud at their parties, were nowhere now. Shame follows cruelty like a shadow, and they couldn't outrun it. I didn't seek them out. I didn't need to hear their regrets. The house was sold, the money in a trust for workers, friends, people who'd shown me kindness when Caleb hadn't. I walked the streets, my coat worn but warm. People nodded now, not out of pity, but respect. You did what you had to, a neighbor said. I didn't answer, just kept walking. The house stood strong, its new owners planting flowers in the yard I'd leveled years ago. It wasn't mine anymore, but it wasn't Caleb's either. That was enough. I'd given him a kingdom and he'd thrown it away with 100 blows. My silence took it back, not with fists, but with ink. My justice was quiet, cold, and final. Caleb came to me once, weeks later. His knock was soft, not the heavy thud of his old confidence. I opened the door, my face blank. He stood there, eyes down, hands stuffed in his pockets. Dad, he said, voice low. Can we talk? I let him in but didn't offer a chair. He fidgeted, words stumbling. I didn't mean it. The hitting. I was drunk. Hannah pushed me. I stayed silent, letting his excuses hang. He mentioned the house, how they were struggling, how Hannah cried every night. You didn't have to sell it, he said, voice cracking. I pointed to my cheek, where bruises had faded but memories hadn't. You didn't have to strike me, I said. My voice was steady, no anger, just truth. He looked away, no answer left. I didn't shout or curse. Silence was my strength now. He left, his shoulders slumped, the weight of his choices heavier than my deed. I closed the door, feeling no warmth, just calm. He'd learn what I'd learned, actions cut deeper than words. The house was gone, and so was his pride. Hannah tried next. She showed up at dusk, her eyes red, her usual smirk gone. "Tom," she said, voice small, "I'm sorry." I stood in the doorway, my coat over my arm, saying nothing. She rambled, about the video, the laughter, how she didn't mean it. "It was a joke," she said. "A joke." 100 blows, my face swelling, her phone flashing, and she called it a joke. I let her talk, her words falling like leaves in a storm. "We've got nowhere to go," she said. "The apartment's too small. Caleb's not the same." I nodded, not to agree, but to show I heard. "You made your choices," I said, my voice low, final. She flinched, like my words were blows. She left, her steps slow, her head bowed. I didn't feel triumph, just clarity. They'd built their life on my sacrifice, then mocked it. Now they lived in the ruins. The house was someone else's now, filled with new laughter, new lives. I'd given it to strangers who'd value it, not spit on it. My silence was my answer, sharper than any shout. The town's whispers grew quieter, but the lesson lingered. Caleb and Hannah faded from the streets, their names tied to shame. I walked past the house sometimes, seeing new curtains, a kid's bike on the lawn. It didn't hurt. It felt right. I'd built it for family, but family isn't just blood, it's respect. Caleb forgot that. I didn't. At the diner, old friends nodded, their eyes warm. "You showed Tom," one said, pouring my coffee. I shrugged, sipping slowly. I didn't need praise. The deed was my voice, the sale my justice. I thought of Caleb's boyhood, his small hands on my tools, his trust in me. That boy was gone, replaced by a man who thought fists made him strong. Hannah's laughter had fueled him, but silence undid them both. The money from the sale sat in a trust, helping workers, neighbors, people who'd stood by me. I didn't keep a cent. I didn't need to. My coat kept me warm, my steps steady. The house was gone, but my dignity stood taller than ever, built not on wood, but on the truth I'd reclaimed. Months later, I heard Caleb got a new job, far from town. Hannah went with him, their apartment left behind. They didn't say goodbye. I didn't expect them to. The house was alive again, with a young couple and their daughter. I saw them painting the porch one day, their laughter soft, real. It reminded me of what I'd hoped for Caleb. I didn't stop to talk, just kept walking. My coat was thinner now, frayed at the cuffs, but it still fit. I didn't need a new one. It had carried me through winters, through shame, through justice. At home, I opened the metal box one last time. It held only old letters now, faded memories of a boy who once loved me. I closed it, slid it under the bed. The past was done. The town respected me again, not as a victim, but as a man who stood firm. I didn't need their words to know it. My silence had spoken, my signature had struck. Caleb's 100 blows had marked my face, but my choice marked his life. The house was theirs no more. The seasons turned, and the house faded from my daily thoughts. I'd see it in passing, its windows bright, the yard tidy. The new owners cared for it, their work visible in every flower bed. It wasn't mine anymore, but it wasn't Caleb's either. That was enough. I spent my days at the diner, trading stories with old friends. They didn't mention the video or the blows unless I brought it up. I didn't. My coat hung by the door, a reminder of survival. I'd worn it through cold nights, through neighbors' stares, through the sale. It was enough for me. Caleb's name came up once, in a hushed story about his new life. He wasn't laughing anymore, they said. Hannah wasn't smirking. Their world had shrunk, their pride buried under the weight of their choices. I nodded, sipped my coffee, and said nothing. Silence had been my strength, my shield, my hammer. I'd built a house once, with nails and sweat. I'd unbuilt Caleb's world with ink and calm. The balance was restored, not with anger, but with the quiet power of a father's justice. One evening, a letter came. Caleb's handwriting, shaky, on a plain envelope. I set it on the table, unopened, and sat under the lamp's glow. Part of me wanted to tear it up, let it join the dust under my bed. But I slit it open. His words were short, no excuses this time. "I'm sorry, Dad," he wrote. "I know I can't undo it. I lost everything. I see that now." No mention of the house, no pleas for forgiveness. Just regret, plain and heavy. I folded the letter, put it in the metal box. I didn't write back. Words wouldn't change the past. The 100 blows, Hannah's laughter, the video, they were scars, not just on my face, but on my heart. I'd answered them with silence, with a deed, with a sale. Caleb was learning what I'd learned, actions echo louder than fists. I stepped outside, the night air sharp. The stars were clear, the town quiet. My coat kept me warm, my steps sure. I didn't need his apology. I had my dignity, reclaimed in the quiet of a single choice. The town moved on, as towns do. New stories replaced the old whispers. I kept to my routine, coffee at the diner, walks past the park, my coat over my shoulders. People nodded, some with respect, others with curiosity. They knew what I'd done, how I'd answered cruelty with calm. I didn't boast. I didn't need to. The house stood strong, its new owners building a life I'd once dreamed for Caleb. I saw their daughter playing in the yard, her laughter free of cruelty. It eased something in me. I thought of Caleb's letter, tucked away in the box. His regret was real, but it came too late. Hannah's silence was louder now, her smirk a memory. They'd built their life on my sacrifice, then shattered it with their pride. I'd rebuilt mine with a signature. The money from the sale helped others, workers, friends, people who valued respect. I didn't keep a dime. My wealth was in my peace, in the weight of my coat, in the steps I took without shame. The blows had faded, but my justice stood, cold and unshakable. Winter came, the air biting, but my coat held firm. I walked the streets, my breath clouding in the cold. The house was a distant thought now, its new owners settled, their lights glowing through frosted windows. I didn't linger. I didn't need to. My life was quiet again, my dignity mine. At the diner, an old friend asked about Caleb. "Heard he's struggling," he said. I nodded, saying nothing. Silence was my answer now, as it had been then. I thought of the night he struck me, the 100 blows landing like thunder. I thought of Hannah's laughter, her phone flashing. I thought of the deed, my name in ink. I'd answered their cruelty not with fists, but with a choice colder than this winter. The town knew my story, not from my words, but from the empty house Caleb once called his. Neighbors respected me now, their nods steady, their voices warm. I didn't need their praise. My coat, my steps, my silence, they were enough. I'd built a house once. I'd unbuilt a kingdom. And in that act, I'd found my strength. Spring brought green to the town, the house blooming with new life. I saw the owner's daughter chasing a ball, her laughter bright. It reminded me of Caleb, years ago, before pride took him. I didn't stop to watch. I kept walking, my coat lighter now, the air warm. The metal box stayed under my bed, untouched. Caleb's letter was inside, but I hadn't read it again. Once was enough. I heard he and Hannah were trying to start over, far away. No one knew if they'd make it. I didn't wonder. Their choices weren't mine anymore. The town's respect grew, not loud, but steady. "You did what was right, Tom," a neighbor said, clapping my shoulder. I nodded, my silence louder than words. The house wasn't mine, but it wasn't Caleb's either. It belonged to people who'd care for it, who'd build without breaking. I'd given Caleb everything: love, lessons, a home. He'd given me 100 blows. I'd given him silence, and with it, justice. My coat hung by the door, ready for the next season. I was ready too, my heart steady, my shame gone. One day, I walked past the house again. The owners had painted it blue, my old color, the one I'd chosen years ago. It looked alive, not like the cage it became under Caleb. I stood across the street, watching their daughter swing in the yard. Her joy was real, not like Hannah's cruel laughter. I thought of the night Caleb struck me, the 100 blows that burned my face. I thought of the deed, my name in ink, the quiet power it held. I'd taken their home, not with anger, but with calm. The town still talked, but the story was fading, replaced by new gossip. My coat was frayed, but it fit me still. I didn't need a new one. I didn't need the house either. I'd built it for love, lost it to betrayal, and reclaimed it through justice. Caleb and Hannah were shadows now, their pride broken. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. My silence had spoken, my signature had struck. I turned from the house, my steps firm. The past was done. My dignity was mine, built on choices stronger than fists. I sit at my table now, the lamp low, my coat by the door. The metal box is empty, the deed gone, but my heart is full. Not with anger, not with pain, but with peace. Caleb's 100 blows marked my face, but they didn't break me. Hannah's laughter cut deep, but it didn't bury me. I answered with silence, with a signature, with a sail that took their world while they slept. The house stands, but it's not theirs. It's home to strangers who value it, who build without breaking. The town knows my story, respects my choice. I don't speak of it. I don't need to. My coat, worn and warm, carries me through. I think of Caleb as a boy, his hands small, his trust big. That boy is gone, but I'm still here, standing tall. I gave him everything, and he gave me shame. I took it back with justice, cold and quiet. My silence was my hammer, my deed my nail. I built once. I unbuilt once. And now, I walk free, my dignity heavier than any house, warmer than any blow. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the playlist now.